This video is brought to you by my generous supporters on Patreon. Especially my new patron this week, Schmidt SS. If you want to know how you can get your name read out in one of these videos, or you just want to help out the channel, then you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/JosiahHerring. That's patreon.com/JosiahHerring. Before I begin, I just need to make a quick announcement about the Big Time Month series and brand. You see, I initially thought reviewing an entire season every year for the month of November could be a fun stunt that could boost my ratings, while also allowing me to release unrelated projects throughout the rest of the year. But as I discovered from November 2020, reviewing an entire season one episode at a time only in the span of a single month is a quick way to burn myself out of not only Big Time Rush, but just making YouTube videos in general. I was going to attempt it the following year, but I already explained in a previous video why that didn't work out. Since then, I've been trying to brainstorm ways to bring Big Time Month back that'll satisfy us both, and I think I've found it. Moving forward, Big Time Month will no longer be a yearly tradition, but rather a monthly series. Gotta keep that brand recognition somehow, right? What I hope to accomplish in doing this is that, since these are relatively easy to produce, it'll allow me to have a more consistent upload schedule. And then I can pour more of my effort into bigger productions, without you guys having to wonder when the next video is going to drop or just straight up losing interest in my channel. I really hope you guys understand and aren't too irritated with this change. But without further ado, synopsis. We reunite with the boys living it up while on their tour, rocking out the standing venues across the US.
And if you get to the state fair today, Arizona, you'll get a free concert by Big Time Crush!
No, we don't get to that till later this season. The guys return to the Palmwoods to a lack of enthusiasm, as well as a pile of homework that they missed while on tour. Kendall tries to reassure everyone that everything's going to be fine, when Joe walks in with...
Oh no.
The boys start stressing about all the numerous problems they've ran into. James is worried about his popularity, Kendall's worried about Joe, Logan's worried about school, and Carlos is... well, nothing's really bothering him, so I guess he can just join James's plot. Kendall's mom tries to bring him back down to earth, which leads to what might be my favorite line by her.
Honey, I have always liked Joe, and this does not sound like her. And if you want to be in a relationship with someone, trust is number one. Now, go find her. Be open with her. And just ask her what's going on. And if something is going on, I always hated her.
Kendall does some investigating with Katie, and they nearly catch Joe kissing the guy. He butts in and learns that she's actually rehearsing for a part she got playing this mysterious guy's love interest. Kendall apologizes for the misunderstanding and says he trusts her before wondering if he can. Transitioning over to James and Carlos by the pool, they're wondering why after months of fun, wacky adventures, no one at the Palmwood seems to recognize them. Camille lets them know it's because this season is a soft reboot. I mean, it's because they were gone on tour, and now, to everyone else, they're the new kids. Carlos realizes he needs to show off how awesome he can be, so he... Over in the Logan plot, we learn the boys can't perform until all their assignments are turned in with at least a C+ average. This doesn't bother Gustavo though, as now that the tour's over, they have all the time in the...
Swell news, everyone! The tour is not over, because...
Turns out Griffin was able to book the dogs on Oktoberfest. I mean, Rocktoberfest, completely different. My apologies. Griffin admits to murder before asking Logan and Kelly why they look so worried. I swear, by the time this is over, I'm gonna have a compilation of all of Griffin's power moves. Meanwhile, Kendall's doing more research on Joe's co-star. Katie somehow manages to get a hold of the script, and we learn...
They kiss?
Keep reading.
For 5 pages?
Directly after, Jet comes by and makes himself the most punchable guy in the room. Back at the crib, Gustavo and Kelly have finished all the boys' assignments, but is quickly called out by Mrs. Collins. Out of options, Logan is left with all the work. On the set of what I can only assume is Riverdale, Kendall is thrown out after trying to delay the inevitable. He tries to apologize to Joe, but immediately goes back on it by snooping through her phone, leading to Joe being done with Kendall's BS and saying that she just wants him to forget about her. All the guys return to the room defeated. Oh yeah, I didn't really mention James and Carlos that much. Anyway, Logan gets their minimal help on the projects, and the boys are able to play Rocktoberfest. Kendall leaves Joe a ticket to the concert, saying to come if she's willing to give him another chance. The concert comes, and she's not there. Kendall asks Gustavo if he can play their new song, and while he's initially rejected, the boys back him up because he needs this. They play their first breakup song, and just when Kendall thinks all hope is lost, he sees an I Heart Kendall sign in the distance, being held by Joe. All the joy re-enters Kendall, and just like that, Rocktoberfest and Big Time Month is off to a bangin' start. Thoughts? Okay, a lot to unpack here. This episode had a lot to do. Their first season ended in such a way to where it kind of felt complete, like it all came full circle. They were famous, they were chased by the adoring fans they wanted at the beginning of the season. They even played This Is Our Someday, a song that was essentially a placeholder for their theme song in the pilot episode. So where do you go from there? You need to craft a new story. And this episode was basically just a lot of setup for what's to come, even if it was written in such a way to where everything feels resolved in the end. Let's just go over some of the things this episode sets up without us even realizing. Kendall and Joe's relationship is on rocky grounds. It establishes James's rising insecurities. And it brings a new status quo to the band as fresh C-list celebrities, not the A-list ones we thought they were at the end of last season. I do feel a few parts of this episode was just saying the same thing over and over again, mainly when it comes to James and Carlos's plot being the same joke. It was essentially, hey, let's do something to get our cred back. Never mind, it backfired. That being said though, it only went on as long as it needed to, it never felt like it was dragged out. I'm not going to fault the episode for me not being able to write it into my script without sounding redundant. The comedy in the episode is actually pretty top-notch, and I really wouldn't expect anything less from the creator of the series. I felt like Kendall's jealousy was handled in a very realistic way. Dating an actor can get complicated, and seeing them do stuff with other people that you think they should only be doing with you is heartbreaking. It feels like cheating even though they're not. It feels like you should be mad even though you shouldn't be. Jo is just doing her job, and I'm glad Kendall realizes that at the end of the episode. This show highlights how complicated relationships are without falling into the CW trope of on-again, off-again couples. Kendall and Jo handle their problems like a realistic relationship. Something very appreciated because teaching kids that drama-filled relationships are normal is very toxic and problematic. This episode is pretty damn perfect, so I'm gonna have to give it a diamond record. Trivia. Okay, Screenwriting 101. Scripts are written in a very specific format. I won't bother you with the semantics. If you want to learn more, please check out this video by Austin McConnell. But the gist is that in screenwriting, each page should equal out to about a minute of screen time or so. Meaning that Kiss would take up to 5 minutes of, assuming it's a regular CW show, a 44-minute episode. This episode was also part of the lineup for the 2010 Worldwide Day of Play event. Basically Nickelodeon's attempt to get kids to go outside and play instead of watching TV. However, for me, growing up in the Pacific Northwest where it's always raining, it was just an excuse to change the channel. I got most of this information from the Big Time Rush fan wiki, specifically the blog, Welcome Back Big Time. If you want to fact check me, feel free to do so in the comments below. And if it's a big enough slip up on my part, I might even have your comment penned. Assuming I haven't done that to someone else. Once again, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to my generous supporters on Patreon. Especially my top supporter, Sherbet. If you would like a piece of custom art like this, then head on over to patreon.com/JosiahHerring and see which tier would suit you the best.